My whole my life, I had my British boss and American boss, but those people I did job with them, but never communicate with personal issues like cultural issues. So also I was spend Junior Chamber International many years, but the same thing happened. But Asian country is different, but white people is very difficult to communicate for Japanese. Not only me, but everybody. So we need to
Right.
conquer for those issues. Otherwise, Japanese will going to be more isolated. So this cause currently, even though now we have problem, but I don't know
Right.
how to solve this problem. So you are the only
I
one
think that
to get into the more depth of detail, mental issue. What kind of solution you should need to focus on? This is you just writing down first sentence of the
right.
gap is very heavy and difficult to solve.
Right. It is. It is difficult to solve. I think when it comes to respect and making relationships, that I think there generally speaking there are two approaches from Western society. One side is just okay. One part just basically raises their hands and say, okay, well, I don't know what these Japanese are thinking. I don't know what's on their mind. I can't talk with them. I can't reason with them. Um, so they give up, more or less. They don't want to build relationships on a private level or even business relationship because
They mean European people,
it's
right?
European people.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, you have people who are very much curious because they think, okay, so basically we cannot communicate, but the Japanese must be doing something right because they have developed this beautiful culture. They have been built up enormous economic prosperity, so they're very curious, and they treat the Japanese very preferential because they want to learn and try to understand what makes the Japanese tick. But I think that in both cases, misunderstanding is the key.
Misunderstanding? No, I don't think so.
Misunderstanding,
Really?
yeah,
Mm.
really, really. I think what I went through, and I cannot project this on everybody else, of course, but uh, I was never aware of uh, my thinking, the way that I thought, or the way that I looked at the world. Never, because everybody thinks the same. Everybody looks at the world the same. When you come from well, in my case, a Dutch background, because this is what we learn from our parents. This is what we learn in school. This is what we encounter when we are doing business. This is the way, right?
Mm.
So this is basically there's only one way, and basically that it's the right way, or if you do it differently, it's wrong, right? So if you think differently, basically you're not you can the reason why you think differently is because you cannot keep up with our thinking approach in
Mm.
Western society. So that becomes the standard. Um, I was never aware of this, that basically this is just one way of thinking. I became aware of this when I moved to Japan, and after some time, I realized that this is just wrong. Like, so people say, you're right, and yet you're wrong. Huh? By definition, that's impossible. But it's true. So there is not, like, basically we believe that there is a single truth, but of course there's not a single truth. There can be parallel truth, depending on where you stand. So I became aware of this, that basically we have this very intolerance, this intolerance when it comes to regarding the truth or thinking in models. And okay, this is the truth because based on what we defined, but what we defined in our model, this is logically true.
Mm.
So the only way that you can revise this is by changing the model. But actually, in Japan, I realized that people do not buy into the model. They look at the truth as something that is not a model, that is a complex reality, and they try to understand the reality by looking at it from all kinds of directions. And the truth changes depending on from which angle you're looking at it. So for me, that was like, huh? And then in the beginning, I thought that's just ridiculous. But then I started to realize, yeah, it's ridiculous because I feel it's ridiculous, because I have this mindset, I have this notion in my head that the truth can only be found by abstracting and then theorizing, as we have been taught by our philosophers.
For example,
So
Mr. Abe attended G7, okay, G20, but he cannot communicate with those people at the party.
Right.
Everything the same.
Right. So it's a very fundamental, a very deep.
What are we going to do?
Very. So I think we need to do something about our education. I have a lot of recommendations.
Education? What kind of education we should develop?
So basically, what we can do, we can skip where we are and we can go immediately to the slides with the recommendation. That's fine.
It means, especially for European people, for Japanese, very difficult to involve in those societies, those people in past or now. And they don't want to, especially French people don't talk with Japanese people. Italy the same.
Right, but on the other hand, like if you look at the, this is interesting you say that, because what countries in Europe have most tourists to Japan? France and Italy.
Really?
Yes. Yes, most people, and actually Japan is very popular with French people. They, if you look at, for example, the Michelin Guide, Japan has more Michelin stars than France. There are lots of exhibitions from Japanese art in France. There are many people from France coming into Japan. That kind of shows that the French are very curious about Japan. They have a very preferential way. But when it comes to doing business, French tend to be very rational, very argumentative. They combine passion with reason. And so I can easily see that Japanese and French people do not get along with each other in the boardroom. However, outside of the boardroom, when they come here to visit, they might be full of awe and respect of what the Japanese have achieved.
Really?
Because they yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely, I know a lot of French people who come to Japan, who stay here, who learn the language. There are a lot of programs about Japan on the
it means
French
might be
television.
cultural issues. We can communicate with those people, right? Cultural.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the reason
There's-
why
yeah.
Japanese government like to invite sumo and kabuki to overseas.
Right.
Better understanding each other, right?
Right. So it's very much appreciated, and France also is very proud of its culture, and they feel that this says something about them, also relative to others. I believe that French people. Okay, sorry if I offend any French people about this, but I feel that they have a kind of superiority feeling regarding their cultural achievements in Europe and maybe even the rest of the world. But I feel that they actually are being matched by the Japanese. That this is something that they really respect about Japan.